High Level is a full CRM and marketing platform, and I've used some of the best in the SaaS industry. And we are live from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and I think that's it. It's Revening's Wednesday. Welcome to Wednesday, Revenue Party people. We've got our hot topics and our hot guests, so I'm not going to waste any time. Let's get into it. I was watching the channels like as the intro video was playing, and I was just analyzing the quality, and it looks like tonight I'm seeing really good quality on, we'll just say, the platform that rhymes with ShmooTube and the platform that rhymes with Cape Book. I don't know. Does the algo not like when we send people to other platforms? That's what other creators are telling me. But anyway, where are you all tuning in from tonight? What are you doing? What is your industry are you in? Is this your first time coming? Let us know in the comments. Hopefully StreamYard isn't having any issues with comments. And it looks like it's not, because I can pull up a test there. So we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And we've got some really great guests. But before we get into it, I want to make sure and let you all know this show wouldn't be possible without Cherry Assistant, without delegating. So delegating is a way I have been able to scale my business, and it's a way you can scale yours as well. We cannot do everything on our own, as much as I would love to be able to be, that efficient. It is nice to bring in virtual assistants who have the skills that you need to help support your business. So Layla, who's here behind the scenes, so grateful for her, is helping me produce tonight. She just brought up this overlay that you're seeing with the QR code if you're watching on video. But if you're listening on podcast, just go to cherryassistant.com and let them know that you heard about us through Wednesday, or heard about them through Wednesday. And they'll help you find a VA that lines up with what you need. If you're sticking around for intermission, there'll be a little menu of services of all the things they do. Because, of course, there's more than just podcast production and stuff like that. They're doing like CRM management and bookkeeping, and there's a whole other, a whole lot of services you can go through. But anyway, I'm really excited to introduce our guest. But before we do, one more thing I want to make sure people know is you should try High Level. So High Level is a tool that we white label here at Revening. So it's app.revening.com for us. And anyone who signs up for one of our plans, they get access to it. And when you get access to it, you basically don't need your previous CRM or marketing automation services. It's because it has everything all inclusive. And then when we're working with you, of course, we can help you with your landing pages and all of that stuff. So yeah, one way we really help, since we help businesses go live on LinkedIn, is helping with their calendar invites to help bring on their guests. But as a marketing agency, having a CRM to help people with their marketing is helpful, because then we can show them the leads we're bringing in. And, of course, marketing, after all, we should not only just be bringing in leads, but we should be helping them bring in quality leads that actually, close in business, and don't just close once, but continue to close. So having a CRM to measure that has been important for our agency. And High Level is great because it's an agency platform. So when you sign up, it's only $97 and you get 3 accounts. So when I was first a solopreneur starting out, I had the, expensive, big SaaS platforms, and they wanted like $300 a month just for a dedicated IP. I'm like, heck no, $97 a month. I can get everything that I need, and an account for my client and my other client. So it was a no-brainer for me. And now I've got some other SaaS companies on even app.revening.com, because they're seeing, these newer, more nimble tools built around AI are actually better than some of those older, larger ecosystems that you have to hire someone just to jockey the whole thing. I digress. Let's get into it. I want to introduce our guests. Welcome to the show, Andrew Barrow, and we have David Reid. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us. Yep.
Awesome. And we've got Doug Lehman in the comments. He's tuning in from Atlanta. Thanks for being here, Doug. Who else is tuning in? Let us know where you're tuning in from. But in the meantime, while we hopefully hear from our audience, will you both please introduce yourself? And everyone can go find you on LinkedIn, but we want to know your full life story and like what makes you like really human and what makes you tick and where you come from. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Andrew. Can you tell us your full life story from birth to what brought you to now in 2 minutes?
Sure. So really quick, I was born in Southern California and have lived here most of my life. Brief stint in Colorado, but I've been working in and out of the digital realm. Built my first website when I was 12 years old on the back of GeoCities. Not to date myself too much, but that was the Squarespace of the 1990s. But been working in some form of advertising technology as well as digital ever since. And then I worked for pretty much about 1/3 of all the Fortune 500 companies through several of the holdcos. So those are the largest agencies in the world that control half of all media spend globally. And ultimately worked in ad tech, straight for Media Math and a few others, and then ended up starting my own gig. Started Revenue Arc, kind of out of the ashes of a bankruptcy with Media Math, and have been working on that ever since. We focus mostly on programmatic and a few others, and we have a kind of a unique offering I'll get into later, but it's basically we will do it for free, which is a little bit unique. And in fact, we pay our affiliates, and I'll get into how we do that in one of the topics. But it's led to insanely tremendous growth, and then that allowed us to allow myself and as the company to grow into our AI division, and we've grown that out quite a bit. We're currently working on a project called Jot.ai that effectively will be like the ultimate assistant when it comes to pretty much your life. So it will know exactly what to do and how to help you in a myriad of ways. That's it.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And we've got some people who are tuning in coming from Utah. We've got New Orleans. We've got Atlanta. So you were born in California. And where did you say you are now, Andrew?
I'm actually not too far. I was born in the San Fernando Valley. A lot of people know Valley Girl, stuff like that. And now I live in Orange County, so the OC. So I basically went from one stereotype to the other for
Okay,
LA.
so you didn't go far. All right. Anyone else in the comments from California? Who here was born and raised in California? My daughter was born in California. But anyway, so yes, let's see. David, we want to know your full life story too, and what brought you to now.
Yeah, so I'm also joining from California, but as you can tell from my accent, I'm not born and raised here. I was born in Surrey, England, and I moved over here with my family 18 months ago. I growing up in the UK with Scottish parents, with two older brothers, sport was a big part of my life. I'll be honest with you, as a young kid and even as a teenager, I thought my life would be in sport, but it wasn't to be. And then I was shown a way that marketing could be a career. And ever since I kind of got that taste, I've loved every part of it. I love, entered the world in advertising. I've pretty much worked on agency side throughout my career. I love the pressure of creating campaigns and seeing the impact and working with clients on, various different, complex strategies and objectives. And, I moved from, bit like Andrew, big holding co's, Ogilvy's, WPP into working in B2B. And, I really enjoy working with B2B brands. I think there's a great movement going on now. I'll talk about, some of those shifts as we go along. But, I'm loving being in America. Loving seeing my family, kind of enjoying living here and the challenge it's given us of adapting to a new a new culture. And now I'm VP of growth for Transmission. We're a B2B specialist agency, working kind of broadly across all verticals, but we're really there to help clients kind of make their brands famous, with their audiences, connect with buyers, and ultimately drive revenue. And I'm really looking forward to be able to talk a bit more about that with Lizzie and Andrew, and hopefully the guests have questions for us about how we can do that and how we can apply some practical strategies to help their own brands.
Yes, definitely. We always love hearing from people in the audience. So, we've got Doug here who is leveraging video for outreach, personal video messaging, and some freelance projects.
Smart moves.
Some solopreneurs out there building their businesses. But we want to make this relevant for you all. So keep engaging with us from the comments. And thank you for sharing. How funny that we've got so many people here from California. But of course, it's a quasi SaaS community. So it would make sense that there's a lot of California people around. And anyway, let's just get right into our first topic. So first topic is scaling success. Atypical business growth strategy. So live streaming is kind of an atypical business growth strategy. If you go live on a LinkedIn company page you can only go live on a company page if you have 150 followers or more, first of all. But if you do, you can gate it. So, on those episodes where we get 130 plus people who register, that's 130 plus leads in the CRM. I think tonight when we started, we only had 25. I don't know how many registrants we have now, but still for one night, that's 25 leads in the CRM registrants who are signing up. So that's a little bit of an atypical business growth strategy. So I'd be curious, Andrew, what are some other successfully scaling atypical business growth strategies?
So one of the strategies we employ, and it kind of came out of being in business development for what felt like forever, selling ad tech. I always got frustrated with a lot of people where they're like, okay, we'll bonus the sales guy and the seller for 18 months, and it'll be a very small percentage of potential revenue, and it ends up becoming, almost like counterintuitive, or it's like, why am I killing myself for like $50? And I ended up coming up with the business strategy because in the industry, like all of digital paid media advertising, it's a $1.1 trillion industry globally. And so it's like, shouldn't we get a pretty sizable cut of that since we're the ones running it at the end of the day? And I realized, why don't we just pay the sellers something so high that it becomes kind of like of course I'll try to sell that on the side. And B, no one could possibly compete with it, or would be crazy to. So we came up with this effective referral program where because typically we're a white label digital agency, is if you work with us, we will give you 50% of our gross revenue back. And not gross profit, not some sort of like, well, there's this percentage. No, it's literally, you'll end up making more than we do. And that's for the lifetime of the client relationship. So if it's passed straight to us, it's that. And then we also were like, well, we want to help people refer us to agencies. So why don't we also pay them? So we'll pay them 25% of whatever that ultimate agency takes us on for. So it ends up becoming where our referrers and agencies end up making like 75% of the entire company's money. And then we work off the 25%. And we have been able to figure out how to scale this quite rapidly by tapping into several different networks. But that's been like one of the kind of more atypical strategies is, why don't we just give as much away as humanly possible to the people who are bringing in the business, because at the end of the day, it's found money for us. It's something that we want to have access to.
Definitely. Yeah. So that's a really good idea, actually. I was saying that in the chat, like for people who don't have a lot of cash up front, to give that sort of revenue share. So can you go into the details a little bit more? Because I'm sure, myself included, I would be curious to learn more about how do you make that work? What are the details? Sure. Yeah, can you break that down?
Sure. So Revenue Arc is programmatic first, but for the most part, we place media buys. So that could be on Facebook, on Google search, on programmatic, which is a pretty large industry at this point, but basically it is virtually, if you ever see an ad, any banner ad at this point, or any ad before TV programming on your TV and you're streaming a video, or you happen to be, you see any of those native ads where they look like ads and or it looks like content but it's ads, that we buy all that, and we use a ton of data to do that. And so what we do is we work with our ad tech partners. So that is companies like StackAdapt, like Google themselves, Facebook, and all the others. We effectively get a cut of their cut, because the way it works in advertising is everyone gets a cut until you get to the final partner, which is the publisher. So instead of charging our clients anything, what we do is we charge the ad tech partner a fee for bringing them business. So effectively, we charge our StackAdapt partners, which are called DSPs, that they go out and buy the inventory, and then SSPs sell it. So we tax basically all the guys all the way down, effectively a cut of a cut of a cut. But it ends up becoming about 20%. In some cases, 15%. Really, for the most part, it's pretty much standardized. 20% of overall paid media ends up coming back to us, because there is that much of a cut the whole way down. And so we're end up giving 10% of the paid media budget back to our agency partners. And so that's why, like, with our agency businesses, literally exploded, because a lot of brands will nickel and dime everybody the whole way down. And then we're the only ones who are like, hey, why don't we turn paid media, instead of a cost center where you're hiring a bunch of FTEs, into a revenue generator? Because every dollar they give us, we're getting back 10 cents. So it ends up becoming this huge, like, growth machine for a lot of people, where, if you're spending, let's say you end up with a combined budget of all these agencies, like $3 million in spend, which is actually on the smaller side for most. You're talking about 300,000 pretty much revenue for just handing us the business, and we just give that back every single year. I mean, 3 million is actually fairly small. Most clients are probably spending $10,000 to $20,000, $30,000 a day. And you're talking about every single day you're getting, like, basically about $2,000 to $3,000 back in pure profit. So you can see how that kind of compounds over and over again. And this was kind of the brainchild of me and my partner, who we have been working on this for some time. But yeah, that's effectively it.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing, David. I was asking questions the last time, so I want to ask, like, what's your take on all this?
Yeah, I think a typical response for me, I think we're seeing a massive shift right now in kind of the buyer behavior, and I think performance marketing and sales plays just don't cut it now. I think your audiences are, they're getting peppered with messages every day, every channel, everywhere they go. Certainly in B2B, everybody wants their attention. And so kind of like finding your audience isn't enough. I think we're talking about growth. It's about being remembered. We got to recognize that 95% of your audience, and I'm being generous there, 95% are not in market for what you're selling. So if there is a 5%, and then let's say from that 5%, which again is going to be generous, in any given moment, only a smaller percentage of those are actually going to be actively researching and in the places where you're advertising. So how do you make that connection? How do you get your brand known and noticed? And I think it's about creating mental availability, because when you do that, when that problem arises, rather than just thinking about how do I go and peanut butter and from an advertising point of view, a marketing point of view, I need to be available for them, spend the money, get in front of them. How do I get remembered? Right. So when that moment arises in there, that 95% going into the 5%, I want to be top of mind, because I know that if I'm top of mind, chances are they're going to select me over anybody else, because they might go and look and start to research and go, well, okay, I know these guys, but who else is in the market? So I research, and I need 3 to 5 kind of vendors to start looking at. So how do I become that number one? And I think it's about mental availability, and that comes from a number of things, right? It's the assumption that you've got good product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
You understand those category entry points. When someone is, when the problem arises,
so important.
you fix it.
You have to have that product market fit. Nothing else works if you don't have that.
Well, I think if you don't have it, it's very hard to be able to get that resonance with somebody.
Yeah,
right? Because
that's
ultimately,
true.
well, why do I need this? Why is it in the market? So it's great if you're in a position where you're creating a market.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then you've got creative effectiveness. That's the thing that people remembered, right? They're using forms of attention, and attention doesn't have to be a short-term kind of pithy thing that, oh, it's instinctual and I saw this great thing and it got my attention and I forgot about it. It can go throughout. And so all those things that Andrew's talking about, being efficient with your media dollars, right? It all comes to saying, well, yes, now I'm being efficient with who's in market, but I'm saying something that actually connects to them, because I know that they're ready to buy, and I've got a good product market fit. And I know the category entry point. If I can get my standout and I've got the right audience, then I've created mental availability, and then I'm going to start seeing my growth.
I just to double back on that, I completely agree. Like, I have this major issue with one thing, which is a lot of times people view like paid media, which is what I focus on, as like the end all be all. But at the end of the day, if I show somebody a red box, it doesn't matter how well I targeted them. They're not going to know what your product is. Creative is insanely more important. To be remembered is effectively everything, because at the end of the day, you can reach your market all day long, but they're not going to remember who you are if the creative is just boring and dull. I always tell a lot of clients who I work with, because sometimes I work with some more early entry solopreneurs, or people are just getting their products off the ground. And a lot of times what I tell them is like, listen, at the end of the day, paid media or just throwing money at the problem has a major problem, and a major problem with the idea, which is I am steroids. That's all I ever been. That's all paid media has ever been. If you decide I'm going to take steroids all day long and sit on my sofa, you're not turning into Arnold Schwarzenegger in the morning. The whole point behind steroids is bigger, better, faster. In the same way of, if you have existing, like a little bit of existing organic growth, your creative strategy is like dead on, we can make it fly. But without that, it's going to do nothing. In fact, it typically does some brand damage by turning us on.
Well, and let's just think about it, right? As we were talking and introduce ourselves, right? People want to know the story. They want to connect. Even if you're selling a service or a product, you're still selling to a human, right? And so treat them like that. And that's partly on terms of where you kind of, what neighborhoods they kind of hang out in, and how you kind of communicate to them, but treat them like a human. So talk about the things that, the benefits they're going to get out of it, how it's going to help them, not just what it does, because I think if you can get into that point of telling stories, we've got research that says it's 22 times more impactful, right, and being remembered, is if you're telling a story of how your product, your service is helping. And customers are a great storyteller, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all, and Jesse, you were talking about how you use CRMs at the start of it. If you got that endorsement of somebody, how I've used it, we're all more likely then to go and try it and have a look ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. I always say people connect with people, not brands. And so humanizing the brand and doing shows like this and putting yourself out there as the face of the brand, it is helpful, because, right now when you look like an ad, people may not want to connect with it as much. But I'm not saying, we don't want to not advertise, because some businesses should be advertising right now. But organic marketing that's what we do to help people, and we see it generating business for businesses. And it's when the founders are putting themselves out there, telling stories, and just being themselves. But let's move into the second topic, which is brand storytelling and create emotional connections that drive growth. So could you kick us off on this topic? I mean, I know we've kind of been getting into it a little bit already, David, but can you kick us off officially?
Can't help myself. It is a real kind of passion for me right now. Certainly in B2B, and we're operating in a very noisy world. And I kind of mentioned it, and so buyers getting hit by something between like 5,000 to 8,000 messages a day. Certainly if you're going into IT kind of functions, I feel for anybody who puts IT director on their LinkedIn, because they are just cannon fodder for messaging. And as you said, right, people don't want to be advertised to anymore, and so we're seeing this insurgence of connecting with more emotive channels. So we watch Netflix. Can I weave my service, my product, my brand into a story that it feels more organic? Can I live in that intersection of entertainment and marketing? Being more non-interruptive, which is funny because about 5-10 years ago, that was the kind of goal of advertising: interrupt the journey, be disruptive. No, that's now annoying. So, can we get values led? And as I said, white papers still have a role, but people don't binge on white papers, right? They binge on content, longer form content. We're seeing that. We're seeing a younger demographic growing up into industries. And so they use digital channels to consume content, and they're more receptive to listening and to watching than reading, right? And they'll read when they want to be. So for me, the drive to try and connect, and I mentioned it before, like finding that corner of your marketplace, or create your marketplace where you can own it but be known. I think storytelling and have an emotional connection is far more powerful. And as I said, there's evidence to show that if you can tap into the limbic brain, that's the core memories that sit there. When the cognitive brain starts working and go, we've got a problem, we need a solution, it's the limbic brain that then feeds it and goes, hey, remember that thing we saw, we enjoyed and made us laugh? What about them? And then it's a case of your sales team being able to just build relationships and connect, right, and be consistent to the brand. We often see that disconnect, right? I want to sell whatever's there, but then the story of the brand is much richer than that, right? Let's not talk about transactions. Let's talk about the experience that you can get with the brand, because that's how we make decisions as consumers, right? Every day. I don't make a decision based on what it just does. It's how it makes me feel. How it makes the people around me feel.
That's so true. Yes, I love everything you're saying. I mean, we have a lot of alignment, so I can see, how we ended up having this conversation, because my coaching program, I coach twice a week. I give an hour on Tuesdays and an hour on Friday, and there's just a group that joins on Zoom. And I always start off the icebreaker, where there's a question that'll be relevant to the lesson. And then in order to popcorn to the next person so that they can do their icebreaker, I ask them to acknowledge them. And so like sometimes even when you don't know someone there, that's sometimes even better to be able to see the good in someone, to leave them with a good experience, makes you a good marketer and seller inevitably, because like you said, people connect emotionally. They're going to remember how you made them feel, not what you said. So if you can be really good at meeting someone new and making them feel really great about themselves, then you're going to be memorable. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm curious what your take is on all this, Andrew. Oh, you're on mute. Here, I'm going to unmute you. Oh, I can't. They won't let me.
It's okay. Force habit. That line, hey, people don't want to be sold to. They don't. They want to experience effectively the journey of the product. The other thing that I absolutely love, and I hear all the time, especially from my wife, is people that literally do not care at one point, especially in the early days of what you're selling. They just care about how you make them feel. It's like dead on. Being in a former buying role, I mean, I'm still in a buying role, but being in a heavily much more buying role, and not just selling also our own services, when I was at the holdcos, we were working on Gap or whatever. Like the amount of people who would come in and constantly sell to us. Like I barely remember. I was sold to. I probably had like 5 or 6 pitches a day that in person that were given to me, and it's became exhausting. And the only thing though is everyone who stood out in my head was the people who actually made me feel like they are actually trying to connect and not just talk to me, but they were like trying to get me to interact. So yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, and I think on that, right, soft skills, because look, we're all in the business of selling, right? I mean, I'd never like to say about our clients that we're selling our agency service, but ultimately, to survive, we need revenue, right? We need to be able to pay people. We want to grow, and we want to, people enjoy working for us, and that comes from being able to sell things that relate. But it doesn't work for us. We're selling to marketers. So if I go in there in a hard kind of SaaS selling model where I'm kind of like, here's a demo, and then here's the next stage, and here's the next stage, they're completely disconnect, because I've got an emotive buyer. So yes, they want to know what we can do, and they want that reassurance. But it's the same as when you're buying a car. If you land on the lot and the guy's straight up to you trying to sell the car right there, you kind of feel panicked and like, he's all over me. So, you want to go to the person who's going to get you a coffee and let you browse and pop up when you need them, or just be available when you've got a question. Makes you laugh, gives the kids something, and entertains them as you're trying to have a discussion with your wife. It's those kind of things, those cues that we all remember, and that person that kind of made you feel like that. Right. And I think that's where you've got to take it back and go, well, what's our persona as a brand? How do we want people to feel?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great lesson. Everyone, I would love if anyone would be willing to put that in the chat, if like of your brand, like, how do you want to make people feel? And maybe I'll just ask you that, Andrew. How do you want revenue arc to make people feel?
It depends on the side. If it's the AI division, I want it to feel like magic. But in the marketing side, I want them to feel like it's actually producing real results. The thing that I always tell clients at the end of the day is, I don't think I've ever taken a client, even to date, out for coffee or anything like that. And a lot of people are like, oh, you don't want to like take them to a show or whatever. I was like, marketers at the end of the day are bonus based on the performance of their brand. Is there actual lift? And my job at the end of the day isn't to help you score tickets to Beyonce. It's to help you pay off your house. So that's why I always try to go in with is that attitude. Like, I'm not here to like, we're going to be the best of friends. I'm here to make sure that you're made whole and that I'm not just selling you a bill of goods.
Yes.
I think that's really interesting. It's really personal, right? Because you're making it about them. And yes, okay, there could be things, short-term memories of going to a concert, but actually the long tail of this is I'm helping you kind of get further in life, which is a really interesting angle to having a product. Let's move away from just the business and core capabilities. How can I help you as a person? And that's, again, things that we forget in certainly in B2B is that someone's doing the job. We want to tap into those personal emotions of how they feel, the decisions they make, the fear of failure kicking in. If Andrew's there going, well, actually, I'm going to help you in your job, but I'm also going to help you get further, is incredibly emotional, but just a great angle to connecting with a buyer.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Absolutely. Still, I love this topic. We could get into the emotional connections piece so much more, but we have 2 more great topics and a brief message from our sponsor. We'll be right back after this.
This is Mike, also known as Clean with Mike on Twitter. Mike hired a virtual assistant from Cherry Assistant about 2 years ago. Now he has a $50K per month business fully managed by a remote operator in South Africa. His VA from South Africa does the following: closing inbound leads on the phone, Yelp and Google and Facebook, manages his CRM on Go High Level, deals with rescheduling, cancellations, any issues, hires and manages the cleaners, and sends them daily reports and updates. Mike has a fully cash flowing business managed by a remote operator for only $8 an hour. You can also hire a US equivalent worker in the Philippines, South Africa, Latin America for a fraction of the cost with Cherry Assistant. Be like Mike and grow your business with offshore staff.
And if you're listening on podcasts, can't see the screen, what's up there is a menu that includes lead generation, CRM management, prospecting assistance, sales presentation preparation, data entry and cleanup, customer support, project management assistance, and so much more. Just head on over to cherryassistant.com. Let them know you heard about them through us here at Wednesday, Revenings Wednesday, and that you heard us talking about them on the show. So yeah, a lot of people are using Cherry Assistant to help them place themselves with VAs. So they have all these relationships with people around the globe, and they find people who, have the right hours and the right skill set that you need for whatever your projects are that you're working on. But then, also want to make another mention about High Level. So High Level, I was telling you all earlier, it's our everything tool. We send marketing emails from there, marketing automation emails from there. There are triggers. So, like, if you've built a workflow in any like marketing automation platform, you know how it works. You pick a trigger, then you can add SMS, email, there's like Slack notifications. You can integrate other things and have it send things as well. Like, I have my free ebook. People can download it. Then they get emails and text messages and voicemail drops from me automatically without me having to do anything. Plus, it's a CRM and it's an agency platform. So we have app.reveting.com, which is really just high level under the hood. And so then our clients get access to full CRM and marketing automation platform. And I mean, it's $97 a month if you just want like the regular, like if you want to sign up on your own, you don't want to come and sign up with Reveting. So if that's it and you want to do that, just go try it out. Just go to reveting.com/high level, or you can use this QR code on the screen if you're watching on video, and that'll get you my affiliate link to High Level. So if you use my affiliate link, you can get a 30-day extended free trial. So get 30 days, and with my affiliate link, I'll get a 40% cut. So, I've got a little skin in the game. I want to make sure that you'll be successful. If you sign up for a free trial, let me know and I'll help you get started. So, yeah, anyway, let's get back into these hot topics. So, we've got our guests, Andrew and David, here with us. And now we're getting into digital advertising and specifically strategies to maximize online visibility. So, I think we're going back over to you here, Andrew, on this one with advertising. Yep. And like I said, I'm more of an organic marketer, and advertising can just eat a lot of budget. So can you really talk us through this right now? Because, I would love to be able to feel confident in advertising again.
Sure. So I think going back to what I was saying before, as long as you have all the fundamentals, you have everything set up, it's right, it's done in the right way, then it's time to start looking at advertising to help it grow farther and faster. The biggest thing that a lot of people struggle with is they go, well, I threw a bunch of money at Google ads typically, or I just targeted random people on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and all those platforms require a lot of like fine tuning. It can be fairly difficult. If you're a solopreneur, I would argue when you're running an ad on Facebook, stick to just Instagram. It'll tell you, don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do that. That's because they want to make a bunch of money. So they want you to burn the money on platforms that are less relevant. But typically Instagram is pretty good. For LinkedIn, make sure that if you were being sold that it makes sense. Then beyond that, your targeting needs to be like spot on. And I think that that's where some people get into trouble, is that they don't know how to target. They're like, well, I want everyone to use my product. It's like, not everybody wants your product. Think of the absolute ideal person that you're like, oh, they're probably going to buy my product anyways. Start there and then expand. And you'll have this idea of like, well, they were going to convert anyways. It's like, yeah, but at least you're getting data in the door for the pixels to start figuring out, and the algorithms and what have you, to start figuring out how it's going to work. But if you have some pretty serious budget, so anything to be serious would be like north of $500 a day, you can start spreading out. So what you would want to do is work with an agency and try to go after those that are willing to only buy premium ads. So in Google, you'll see this big push for PMax. That is like literally the worst inventory you could possibly buy. It is I could go on a very controversial take here about how bad it is, but it is literally federally investigative bad. There is the inventory is not going to run where you think it is. Whatever they're reporting is a black box. You don't know. So the better idea would be to work with an ad partner who's like, here's all the places you're going to be running. Here's like the 200 different places you're going to run, and they all seem reputable and recognizable. And then run with them. And you want to run for about 3 days before. We typically say 72 hours for marketing speak, but 3 business days. After 3 business days, you start seeing some level of conversions. And if you're good, then you just kind of keep it going, and then it should start ramping up. The biggest pitfalls a lot of people run into whenever they're doing advertising is they don't give it enough time to hit like a peak, and peak is about 30 days in, or they're trusting a lot of times. A lot of people trust the wrong partner, or they'll cheap out on the partner. They'll be like, hey, we saw this guy, he was on Fiverr. He says he knows what he's doing when it comes to Facebook or whatever. He's going to light your budget on fire.
Right.
I can't even tell you how many times I've gone into mega large companies and gone through it, and it's just like, hey, I have these guys have been running, and we've only been getting a $2 ROAS, or a $2 return on ad spend. And I was just like, yeah, because you were targeting Estonia. Like, that was literally your target. Like, I don't fully understand what this guy's obsession is with the Baltics, but that's where you were running your ads. So you just have to be careful.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing still today is TV. And so CTV buying streaming services is still clutch. It gives, I can't fully explain why, but it gives credibility. If you're on the television, people automatically assume you're huge and that you're a well-known entity. And I there's a bunch of reasons as to why, but it still shocks me that today that companies will literally be like, I don't know who that is. Oh, I saw them on TV once. So clearly they've been checked out 30, 40 times by all these people. Is that true? Probably not. But it gives that credibility that you wouldn't normally get. So definitely CTV if you need to tap into anything.
Yeah, and it's like, it's exciting because it's a new day for TV. You can target deterministically on TV ads, unlike, back in the day when you were buying these like big, I don't really fully understand how it works, but it was definitely a little bit more, it wasn't deterministic, right? It was more of a guess. You were buying a block of like, I think I'm going to be on this show, or like, I think my people are watching this channel. And now it's like, oh, well, if these people saw my Instagram ad, then I can track them on CTV. Or if, you know what I mean? You can actually look at, or like take your first party customer data and go build a lookalike audience and then go target them on TV. It's not going to be just everyone who watches that channel. It's going to be people from wherever. But yeah, it's so interesting.
And you should also build what's called sometimes called a suppression list, or a negative targeting.
Yes.
So build a list of people who are the least likely possible to ever buy your target, and come up with a lookalike model for that, and then negatively target them across your larger buys. So something that a lot of large companies, especially once you're talking about medium-sized companies, they'll do, usual, I'm going to target everyone 18 to 34. Also in that 18 and 34, run a suppression list, and then you won't be showing up to those, and you'll make your buy actually much more efficient, because those people aren't going to convert anyways.
100%. Yeah. Like anytime I hear people talking about deleting your data, I'm like, well, just because they're bad, like they're closed loss leads, doesn't mean that's bad data. Like actually those closed loss leads, you can make a really great suppression list with that. And go and train, all your tools that you're using. I would say go use BDEX. If you're looking at consumer data, B2B data, check out Lead Magic. There's a lot of different options out there, but you can build different lookalike audiences out there based on your data. And like you said, do the suppression list as well. I think a lot of people forget about that. And so I started off the whole topic on advertising, being kind of like down in the dumps about advertising, because I was that CMO that started a new job, be like, you're spending $9,000 on Google ads? That's crazy. How much revenue are we getting from that? 0. Okay, we're going to shut that off. And I'm going to take that 9,000 and we're going to go do something else with it. But, you know, like that's the reputation it has in my mind. But I have seen when people have strategic people behind the scenes like you who are really helping them with targeting and having it work, especially when you're doing it smart and deterministically, looking at your data. Because if not, there's no need to just go spray and pray with ads anymore.
No, there's not. And like it's actually still impressive to me that the vast majority of advertisers still run completely open-ended campaigns. There are so many nefarious actors out there that you want to avoid, like your engagement farms, bot networks that will literally just drain every dollar you have. It's insane. And also some of them will actually look like actual conversions. So we used to run campaigns back in the day using a couple different tools. And you'd be surprised how quickly they can engage these engagement farms where all of a sudden you're like, hey, why are we really converting in Malaysia of all places? And it's like, you know, we had an app download campaign where we ended up, this is really early before we really put up all our safety guards up. And it ended up being like 5 million active users in the country of Malaysia. Well, if you do the math, country of Malaysia is not a big country. It's 25 million people. That means 20% of every single person had this AI art app and were using it on the daily. I was just like, that is not possible. And so what we realized is the engagement farm was doing that in order to get paid by Google. And it just is this vicious cycle. And Google has been trying for years to get rid of it, but they just cannot. And that's why you need to be very careful about your targeting and and monitoring it all the time, because a conversion could literally be mimicked by these effective bot networks. So you have to be very careful to make sure that the conversion is real.
You're so right. Yeah. I mean, the bot thing is a problem. Like there's so much fraudulent data out there, the click farms, and, you know, it's like all the numbers are so inflated out there. You know, it'll be interesting. I don't know how they would ever, I guess maybe legally, like how they would ever fix that problem, you know, like, because it's the whole thing.
It's virtually impossible. The best thing you can do is, effectively do what's called most advertisers will tell you about this, but running a PMP list of a set number of sites that you'll run on. You should be able to supply that site list as to be auditable, so that you can go through and you're like, yeah, I recognize all these sites, not just some random site you've never heard of, and then tighten your IP targeting so that it doesn't run outside of your region. Typically, like you're like, I think most of my clients are going to be in the US, then just only run in the US. Don't experiment.
Yeah.
So you have to, and there's a couple of different ways and methods to avoid bot networks. They're blunt and quite brutal.
Yeah.
Because it can diminish user potential growth, but it's kind of a crazy story once you get into the depths of targeting.
100%. I'm curious, David. Yeah, what's your take on all this?
I think look, we're obviously, you know, depending on your size of your business and who you're targeting, I think it's going to a lot of things channel wise is going to vary massively. But I think, you know, look, digital visibility is critical. Right? You can't afford not to be present. Can every channel attribute to revenue? You would like to think so, but sometimes it needs to play a role. And I think this is probably coming into those kind of problems where most people don't want to admit it, but they're advertising to get leads. They're advertising to get someone to do a demo.
Yeah.
And it's whether that channel is the best fit for that, and trying to make those decisions and optimizing, you know, impact by balancing what is my demand channels. So where do people go to kind of figure out what they need to what are my kind of brand channels? So we talked about connected TV. Yeah, it's really great, but you know, I see some stuff pop up on connected TV and it's trying to do a product demo on a TV. And I'm like, I don't want to sit and watch this. I'm watching a show that I enjoy. Like, get off my screen. Like, entertain me. Like, you know, you use it for what it is. The great thing is, connected TV, you can put up a QR code on your ad and send someone to your website. Like, if that's the purpose. But like, don't just like peanut butter. Okay, well, I'm going to use all these channels, and I want all of them to do the same job. You do have to be selective, and then absolutely use the right data partners. Like don't get hoodwinked by somebody saying they can give you something that's probably sounds too good to be true. It's like, how can I get to the bottom of understanding my audience and where they go to kind of consume, and then how do I strike? And I think that's when you get attribution. I mean, not to get into, we'll probably get into the next subject, but like, search tends to be a really great way of attributing kind of revenue, mainly because people see an ad, didn't click on it, and then they go and search it. And search looks like the hero. But
that's like this live stream. People like hear about you, and then they're going to go search you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like sometimes you just have to take that little bit of hit because it's probably contributing somewhere else, but we just can't get that link of attribution. So, like, turn it off, and then you see like, oh, actually, is anything changed?
Yeah. It's so difficult. Oh man, I could go into that whole bot topic like further and further. Clean your data, people. Get the bots out of your data, and you'll improve your return on ad spend. Just period, point blank. I've seen it so many times, but I digress. The new B2B buyer, trends shaping modern purchasing decisions. So when I first read this topic, the new B2B buyer, I have to be honest, my thought went to, is the new B2B buyer even a human?
Yeah. It's a human. It's a human, David. But it's a human that is that's more agile, right? It's digitally agile, but is also using personal decisions. I don't think I'm not going to come out there and say everything's changed. Right? People are still going to buy from organizations. They may be more willing now, and data shows that they're going to make bigger purchases without a traditional sales interaction. But trust is an issue in the world, right? It's a geopolitical kind of segment shift right now, and who do I trust, and who's out there who's going to help me? So, I kind of mentioned before, and getting these kind of buyers, getting yourself known is really important, right? Because there are 86% of decisions are made from somebody making a day one list, and so these buyers are kind of shaping modern purchasing because it's a generational shift. How they consume content is changing. The role of LLMs is really making a shift because it's not just a case of I can go and use it as a search, like a branded search terms. I've got this tool that can reason. I've got this tool that can go and actually do a bunch of my research. And so the traditional kind of funnel or buyer's journey where you kind of get, hey, awareness, I know of them, they strike a tone. Now I'm going to help, understand and consider them as a partner. That middle of consideration, education, then purchase, we're calling it the messy middle, right? Because there's going to be a lot of darkness, and they're going to pop up in these different kind of ways, and they're going to ask for recommendations. And in some cases, you're going to show up. Your brand visibility on LLMs is going to be great. And sometimes it's not, and it's going to be inconsistent, certainly now as those tools start to learn. So that transition is happening. And it's kind of not happening in a linear fashion, and that means demand in its traditional sense is changing. It's failing, if I want to use a great big term, and that then puts your costs up. We talked about that, right? I've got channels that aren't kind of lifting well because you can't nurture somebody in the same way, because now you've got my interest. I can't send a load of emails because I'm going to ignore them, because now I've got your interest. I'm just going to go and do my research. And so, I feel like the new buyer isn't necessarily somebody that we need to be overly afraid of. And yes, there's a real leaning on digital, but I think ultimately they still want that consultative interaction, right? They still want people. They just may turn up a little bit more educated on what they absolutely need, on what you might be able to do and how you stand up, because they've gone and had something, learned for them. And I think there's real advantages for that. I think it can really help us. It's also scary because we can't, as marketers, we want to be able to attribute, touch points and show marketing's kind of influence on pipeline. And that's where we need to make that pivot, you know. And I think that's where, you know, brand does become more important. But also making sure that you've got content that's readily available. You've got FAQs on your websites. You've got customer testimonies and stories, and that you're using third parties to be able to, you know, qualify your position, right? So they're helping, you know, share your message as well. That gives you that visibility. The advantage is right now, Google wants you to pay it to rank you. An LLM doesn't want you to charge you right now. It will do at some point. But right now, you as long as you put the content out there, it will go and do the job of figuring out like who's the most influential and whether it answers the prompts that are getting put into the LLMs.
That's a really great point. And Doug was saying good points on AI input, LLM, and the new B2B buyer. Would love to hear more of what the audience thinks here on LinkedIn. I could see there's 5 people, between 5 and 10, who keep coming in here on LinkedIn. So just let us know who you are, what's interesting to you here. I can always talk about marketing attribution. I think most marketers can, but I think those are all really great points. But you still don't think that the new buyer is not human or is human?
Well, I think it would, again, a caveat there, right? Depending what you buy and depending what you sell. I would hope not. There's parts of me I'm saying research tells me that, yeah, okay, buyers, generational shifts are happening. Is that happening right now at a sweeping kind of senior level? No, absolutely not. But influential people are wanting to make decisions differently than the past 10 to 15 years, right? And so I think it's more of a nod to that. They're not just rational machines anymore, right? The rational cognitive decisions are getting made, but they are wanting that kind of emotional connection. And when I say emotional, I'm not saying like lovey-dovey, oh, I love this brand. Like, not everybody, it doesn't have to be that. It's actually, it makes me feel good. I enjoy, you know, the what they put out there. You know, the personal side, they helped me actually do my job better. They helped me show up, you know, they helped me kind of get that promotion. So these are the kind of more of the emotional side. Or I can see somebody that does the same function as me. And that's what I was saying about like customer references and FAQs and things like that. They might sound boring, but they're really useful, because that's how people, if you recommend something, you know, someone is like 2.5 times more likely to buy that product if it comes from a recommendation, you know. And so if you've got customers out there and you can tell just a simple story, or you can tell more of a emotive one, do it, right? Because people will buy that. Right?
And that sort of gets to what she was asking, but any insights or examples on how brand storytelling can meet the new B2B buyer?
Well, I think, you know, stories help brands show up as, and I'm really not a massive fan of this term, but thought leaders. And thought leaders in the traditional sense was like, I'm going to write a really like smart white paper and I'm going to talk to you for 19 pages. I think it's more a case of like change makers and leaders, right? It helps you show up and be more demonstrable about, you know, what you do. And we connect like on consumer brands. Like if North Face did a documentary about somebody climbing Everest wearing, you know, it's a sponsor, it's from North Face. Nobody would bat an eyelid. They go, yeah, of course it's North Face, right? Yeah, of course they're going to be wearing it while they climb Everest. It's like, think in that terms. Where do we show up? And it's not going to be always in those things, but like, where does our brand help people get to the top of the mountain? You know, and I think that's where, you know, meeting the buyers, because that's what they want. They want to feel that like your brand does something like impactful to people, to society, to culture, you know. And so, you know, I think if we want to win today's buyers, I think, you know, should be less faceless, be more relatable and authentic. A little bit of a plug, we're doing our first foray into documentary making, and our first one is, we're telling the story of when IBM created their AI tool, Watson.
Oh, nice.
It was created to win Jeopardy. It wasn't created because there was a market.
Really?
It created a market. So essentially,
Watson was created for Jeopardy?
it was what to win Jeopardy,
I
and
had
that's
no
what our story's
idea.
about. It's about the three protagonists: the engineer, the CEO, and the chief brand officer. And it tells a story. It's a short doc. It's only 18 minutes long, but it's fascinating about this kind of whole risk and reward and showing up and putting yourself in the public domain. I absolutely love it. So it's going to be it's launching in October. We've got screenings. Anybody who wants to come to a screening, even New York or San Francisco, fortunately they are the only ones. It will be online, but happy to give anyone a ticket to the private screenings that we've got.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for sharing. And, these time flies when conversation is good. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already past 9. And we still need to do the guru of the week. Ooh, ooh. Okay, so I'm going to pull myself out. Marissa's saying that is so interesting. And whoever else is tuning in, like, keep talking to us. We want to know you're there. And, like, we want to make it relevant for you. But now we get to hear the guru of the week from Andrew and David. And so we want to know, like, why should we go follow these people?
Yeah, so I'll just dive right in. So Misha is by far one of the greatest sources of ground truth when it comes to paid advertising. He's worked on virtually every single Fortune 500 company, and he's quiet, very, very humble guy, but he literally kind of wrote the book when it comes to the best ways of managing a large enterprise level client.
Yeah, and my recommendation is Peter Weinberg, who is the co-founder of Evidenza, who are a AI synthetic research platform. He founded the LinkedIn B2B Institute. So he's a researcher at heart. He is a contrarian. You're going to get kind of outlandish points of view. He's got a very entertaining podcast, which he joins with his business partners, John Lombardo, where they're dressed up in almost like medieval kind of like Italian dress things. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very entertaining. But great font of knowledge on trends and how to stand out and how to have impact. And he's got a pretty cool product out there, right? That cuts market research costs in half and in time. And I just find him really entertaining, always insightful, and always with a big point of view. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you both for sharing your guru of the week. We really appreciate that. I just tagged them in the comments. So maybe we can get those gurus on the show. Love to bring gurus of the week on the show. Whoa, my camera just moved. Sorry, everyone. So we got the guru of the week, and also want to learn a little bit more about you both before we go, and exactly like what it is you do, who you serve, and how you serve them. And if they could be served by you, how could they reach out to you? And we'll start with you, David.
I serve B2B marketers, right? Any shape, size, form. I'm there as a partner. I lead growth for the agency. That means I've got many hats. It's helping clients get the most out of their budgets and be more impactful for their customers and their prospects. It's our agency to make sure that we are providing the right services and the capabilities. And you'll get a partner throughout that journey in me, right? I'm there as an executive counsel, as a strategic partner. I'll push boundaries in terms of where we need to go and how we need to do it, and I'll be honest with that. But we'll have fun. And I said at the start of the call, we're a B2B specialist agency. We're here in North America, in San Francisco, Dallas, New York. We're a global business. London, Sydney, Singapore, Delhi. We can help in many different guises, but we love a challenge. We love a B2B challenge, and I don't think there's one out there that we couldn't get our heads around and help with.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And how about you, Andrew? And what exactly do you do? Who do you serve? And if they could be helped by you, how do they reach out to you?
Sure. So I founded Revenue Arc. We are a programmatic white label agency. So effectively, if you want to get your clients' ads on the web in any kind of shape, form, it doesn't really matter if it's on Facebook, on YouTube, on Pinterest, or on CNN.com or Hulu, we can get it there. And as I said earlier, with the growth strategy, we have a little bit of a unique model. We effectively pay you to manage it. So if anyone's interested in that, you can just look us up at revenuearcmarketing.com and just contact us there.
Appreciate that. And it came back to me, Andrew. You've been on the show before. You came on with Christine Lavopa not too long ago. So
a few months
it's
back.
great to have you back. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, this has been a really great episode. Thank you both so much for coming on. And thank you, everyone else, for listening in. And we're going to be back again next week with some really great guests. We've got Sarah Jensen. She is the principal of Brighter Messaging, and Johnny Hughes, the CMO, and AI counsel Chai, Avenue Z. Looking forward to bringing both of them onto the show. But until then, it was really great to meet both of you. I've met you before, Andrew. You've been on the show, but to bring you back on the show and to have this conversation. So thank you both for staying up late with us here on LinkedIn and YouTube and all the channels.
Great. Thanks for having me. It's been really great.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close this out with a video. See you later.
Bye.